Let's talk a little bit about the ecstasy that one can possibly find in this practice. And obviously, you cannot say, oh, it's going to take you 3 months and you a year or whatever. But is it pretty general that most people at some point or other, sticking with the practice, will be able to experience this bliss?
Yes, I think so, and I think in this lifetime is perfectly reasonable, and for many people, it's quite soon. In fact, I'm amazed within the 6 years that we've been doing this with AYP. I have just been amazed at how quickly people come along. Uh, some people quicker than others, and
Mm-hmm.
again, this gets back to those karmic obstructions that we have to work through with these practices.
Uh-huh.
But and there's also different ways that the purification opens up inside different people. Some people may just feel peace and stillness and love, and other people may feel these huge waves of ecstatic energy going through them. And it can happen. It can happen soon, or it can happen later. But when we're doing the practices, what we do know is that we're on the road, and whatever our process is we're doing all that we can to unfold it. I might add, mentioning earlier about the connection between the brow and the root, that when ecstasy really gets rolling in the nervous system, this conductivity really opens up and the energy really gets rolling. It appears sexual in the beginning, or can appear sexual in the beginning, where the energy is coming up from the pelvic area, and it can be stimulated from the head, from the brow. In fact, the Sanskrit name for the third eye or the brow chakra is ajna, which means control or command. So you can command this ecstatic response in the body from the brow.
Really?
Yes, yeah, that's so. And this gets into some of what we may be talking about next time, if we're going to be talking about tantra.
Yes.
Where we're actually expanding our sexual function up through our nervous system to a much broader purpose than just reproduction. So, and I mention that because it's not uncommon for people who are doing spinal breathing to be having some sort of sexual thing going on, and it can happen in deep meditation too. And the first question that comes up is, what's this about? And the answer is that our sexuality is very closely connected with our spiritual development. Mm-hmm. And spinal breathing is one of the techniques that begins to open that up.
Doesn't it make it difficult to come away from it if it's so blissful and ecstatic? That wouldn't you want to just stay there?
Well, you can get used to anything, it really is like that. I mean, when the experiences begin to open up and the energy begins to flow and there's this ecstasy and you realize that you can really pig out on it if you want to, you do that for a few weeks or a few months,
right.
Maybe some people for a few years, I don't know. But eventually you get used to it, and really the real benefit of this is that when the inner silence and this ecstatic flow mingle together, which is the metaphorical joining of Shiva and Shakti, but when those two begin to blend together in your life, yes, life becomes ecstatic, life becomes blissful, but more importantly, you become a channel for this energy that's coming out through you, which is all divine love. So it affects your choices in life and how you relate to people, and it actually moves you toward a life of service eventually. Mm-hmm. And we don't say a person has to go out and have a life of service. What we say is, well, you may find that you're inclined that way as this process goes on. But along the way, you're going to have all these experiences, mm-hmm. possibly, mm-hmm. or maybe not. You may just naturally become more loving and oriented towards service in life without all of the fireworks. The fireworks, that's what we call them,
Yeah.
the ecstasy and the big, huge experiences inside. The fireworks are really a symptom of purification. And the farther along we get with this process, the less resistance there is to the energy, the less extreme the experiences will be, and the more smooth and blissful and ecstatic and flowing and divine the energies become. So the whole business of ecstasy is really a process of purification, and the symptoms are very much tied to that, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's beautiful. So
look at it this way. Say you have a pipe that's full of mud, and say it's ecstatic mud, okay?
Yes.
And you're going to force water through that pipe. Well, what's going to come out the other end? Mud. And if there's ecstatic elements attached to it, it's going to be ecstatic mud shooting out of the end of the pipe, and it's going to be very messy and exciting and fun, and sort of a whoopee kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But as more of that mud gets out of there and the water's coming through, it's going to become more and more pure coming out the other end. And the purest water coming out of the other end of that pipe is pure bliss, ecstatic bliss.
Yes.
It's not extreme, and it's not violent, and it's not even overwhelming.
We're out of time, Yogani, so we're going to head next interview into Tantra. Is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners to entice them to come back and listen to us next time?
Well, yeah, I guess what I would like to say is we don't want to be encouraging people to have sex of whatever kind more than what's normal. What the approach is in AYP is whatever your normal sex life is, or even if you don't have much of a sex life, whatever it is, we can make it better with these techniques.
Wow, that's
and
great.
Give it some long-term, far-reaching consequences in the spiritual arena. So that's really what it's going to be about.
Oh, I can't imagine anybody not wanting to tune back in again after hearing that.
Yeah, sounds pretty interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm tuning in, that's for sure. Oh, Yogani, thank you so much again for this lovely interview. It's been very educational and filled with knowledge and wisdom. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a real joy, Dr. Ann, and the guru is in you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
I want to thank you for your emails that I've been receiving in support of the shows and my trips over here in England and Europe and my music. Thank you very, very much for all of the wonderful supporting emails that I've been receiving from you. You can continue to write to me at drannwest@aol.com. I love to hear from you and hear what's going on Kauai when I'm traveling the world. I do encourage you to stay tuned at the first Sunday of every month, especially for this year, because Yogani and I are doing an entire series on the enlightenment process, the path to enlightenment, which will cover all of the steps that a yogi would take to uncover and dive deeply into the realms of enlightenment. And we've started with meditation and pranayama, and next show will be about tantra, and then we'll go on to all other sorts of topics and conversations that will dive deeply into the enlightenment process. So the first Sunday of every month, you can tune in to Truth from the Source and continue on the path of enlightenment. And I also suggest that if you're up for this challenge, then do go to the aypsite.org website, because everything is in much more detail there, and there are many free lessons that Yogani has posted on that site. I'm Dr. Ann West. You've been listening to Truth from the Source. It's wonderful to be sharing this information with you on Kauai and worldwide on the internet. Much love, aloha, namaste, Goddess bless.